Alrighty, let's get our other Facebook groups in here before it's officially time to go. Got our wheels spinning. One and two. There we go. Welcome in, welcome in. It is Tuesday morning, the 26th of September, 7:34 a.m. Mountain Time, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell out here in rainy and cold Seattle, and that's Scott Kennedy out there on the other end in Atlanta. How are things going, Scott? Is a beautiful fall out there in Atlanta right now?
Oh, it's been gorgeous. It's been the earliest fall I can remember where it's, yeah, it hit 85 and people are like 85, that's fall. Well, yeah, for September. It's cool out, but it's been in the 50s and low 60s in the morning. So it's
Perfect.
been gorgeous. Dry. It's been great weather here. Always said when they put the Georgia Dome up, it's like people don't want to tailgate and then go inside in the fall in the South when it's perfect. So I'm looking forward to. I do enjoy the cold. So we're 3-4 weeks away from going out to Broncos country and the meet and greet. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, I'm watching those ticket prices right now. It's unfortunate the Jets tickets are like $80, $90 a ticket, but the Packer ones are like $200 a ticket. I don't know if that's Packer fans stuff or whatever's going on, but I'm guessing it'll probably get lower before then. But if anybody has any insight on tickets, I'm hunting right now. We'll be there, but still got to get the tickets in hand for that. And who knows what type of Bronco team we'll see at that point? Who knows who'll be coaching on the defensive side of the ball at that point as well? Scott and I are going to get into that today. But first, we want to say hello to some people starting to trickle in here and start off with the super chats here. Denver Luke 1, $4.99. Thank you so much, Denver. Luke, he says, it's tough to watch the Broncos, but my Ducks are playing well. What do you guys think of Bo Nix? If the Broncos are picking ninth, should we go get Bo Nix? Scott has maybe a little bit too close to the situation on Bo Nix because he watched him for a number of years there in Auburn, and man, he was bad there in Auburn. He's been pretty good at Oregon. I don't think I would spend the 9th overall pick on him, but I do think there's an outside chance he ends up being a first-round pick at all in the back end. He's been pretty good there in Oregon. It's just there's so little high, how do I put it? The NFL caliber throws, the 15-yard out kind of thing, the windows that he's going to have to hit. They don't ask him to do that very much at Oregon because they don't have to. So I have a hard time with the evaluation of Bo Nix, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he ends up being a late first-round pick. Somebody takes a shot on him because he is a good athlete. He's gone through adversity, and he has good enough arm talent. So I wouldn't spend I don't see a top 10 guy right now. I haven't watched much Oregon this year. This is more based on last season, so maybe he's progressed some as well. But yeah, he's a fun one to watch. I know Scott actually had another player from Oregon that may be worth talking about at some point here. But what do you think, Scott? Bo Nix, 9 overall. I know that you have some insight there too.
No, you said it. I'm admittedly biased. I watched him at Auburn, and part of it was he came in, was handed the job, and moved Malik Willis out of there, and he was poor. The team was poor. It went downhill while he was there. So I tried to, and then he comes back. It's like, okay, Oregon new, and then he comes back and plays Georgia, and just looks awful against Georgia. His first game in Oregon. Okay, so I haven't seen anything good from Bo Nix. So I tune in the Colorado game this week and watch him, and I'm like, okay, wipe it clean, wipe it clean, wipe it clean. Recognize your own bias. Sideline throw, sideline throw, sideline throw. I felt like I was watching a tennis match. Sideline throw, sideline throw. Throws one downfield, intercepted. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say no, but I'm going to say I haven't seen enough. So something like the Senior Bowl could be very good for him, where he gets to show off over and over and over and over again, like legitimate quarterback play and not just Oregon Ducks quarterback. That's no offense against Oregon. It works really well. They've got a lot of space.
Yeah.
Get the ball outside your playmakers, block for them, and let them go to work. That's not a shot at Oregon. It works. But you got to get them out of that offense in order to see how it would translate to the NFL. And it's too tough for me to tell. So right now, at 9, top 10 for Bo Nix, I would say, hell no. Hopefully he goes. I really hope he goes to the Senior Bowl. Hell, he's going to be 24, moving on 25 years old. He's been around a while. I'd love to see him there and come up with a more realistic pro evaluation on Bo Nix.
Yeah, him and Washington have older quarterbacks, but guys worth keeping an eye on. Michael Penix and Bo Nix, both probably Senior Bowl guys. Pac-12 has been amazing football this year. I mean, God, just all the quarterbacks. I'm excited. I mean, we got we got Colorado, USC this week. So, I mean, that'll be a fun one. Yeah, Bo Nix, shout out to him. Oregon, I think people are sleeping on their defense. Very good team, but don't want to spend too much time on college football, though. That might end up being a theme of these shows, Scott, if the Broncos keep playing like they have been. Franklin Peterson comes in and said, "This may seem dumb in the grand scheme of life in the world, but my heart is still broken after that performance Sunday. Don't know if I'll get over it." Franklin, it was definitely a kick, repeated kick to the nether region for the Broncos and Broncos country on Sunday. And you as a fan can feel any way you want about it. That's your right. And I think time will probably give you perspective on this, and there'll be another game Sunday, and the sun will rise again, right? This is just a blip, and it's a dark one, no doubt, but you'll get over it, buddy. I promise that. There'll be a new football to be scarred over. We have plenty of football games left this season to be scarred over with the Broncos. Jay Roper coming in saying, "I prayed for Caleb Williams before the season. No joke. I hope God answered." Man, we were getting big time philosophical today, but yeah, Caleb Williams. Scott, I got to say, I'm not letting myself get into the Caleb Williams mindset for this team because I still think the coaching is too competent. And I think that it's, one overall. I mean, the odds we went 5 overall last season, and like it can't get worse than that, right? Like I guess it can, but it's I until we're like 3 weeks out, and like the finish line is in sight, I'm not getting myself in the Caleb Williams headspace.
We went through this exercise last week,
Mhm,
about personnel and or coordination, defensive coordination or lack thereof.
mhm,
And I think we feel pretty good now. It's like, okay, both things can be true at the same time. You don't have enough talent to be a playoff caliber, Super Bowl contending caliber defense. And but they still could have played it much better and played better or well enough to be 2-0. Those things could both be true. Fast forward another week, and now we feel like, okay, the defensive talent is still overrated, and the coordination has gotten even worse. How we feel about the defensive coordinator has sunk to new levels. And you're talking about injuries, and now the guys who probably there's a lot of them out there that we don't think are good enough anyway. Now they look like they've quit.
mhm.
So if you've lost the team like that, no, the number 1 overall pick isn't out of the question. No matter what Sean Payton and the offense do, if that defense has quit on Vance Joseph, we'll know Sunday for sure. We know they quit in the Miami Dolphins game. That much I'm pretty sure of.
Mhm.
Then no. Then Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick, is on the table. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like you're much closer to having Drake May or Caleb Williams than you are to winning 8 games.
Yeah. I think it's probably a team that's picking in the 5 to 10 range at the end of the day, but we'll see. This Bears game is going to be a big barometer. If you want Denver to be even in close to that conversation, and Scott, I know he's not a quarterback, but I would have to lump him in there too. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a blue chipper in this class, and he would be. It's not a quarterback, but unbelievable to add.
Yeah, but you have to, if you are 1 or 2, you have to take one of the
Oh,
2
of
quarterbacks. Yeah,
course.
you have to.
I am with you 100%. That's another conversation we can have too. If you are sitting there, it's not that Russell Wilson's playing bad, but it's that you have to reset the contract in your window because your window. What's Russ right now? 34, 35. When is this team going to have enough talent to contend again? 36, 37, 38, 39. I mean, you're out of the Russell Wilson window at that point. So you probably have to reset it if you have a chance at one of those quarterbacks, which it's crazy how fast things can change in the NFL and how worse can get or bad can get worse. But good to see you, Jay. We always appreciate you coming in. Jeremy Sean says, "Morning, boys. Just delaying the inevitable." Talking about Vance Joseph. Yeah, possibly, probably. We'll see. Kevin Gray, morning, Nick and Scott. Big Mile High salute to Broncos country. Good to see you. Always appreciate Kevin Gray coming in. We got US Dave in the house saying, "Buenos dias, compadres." Always good to see you. Colin Wood saying, "When was Vance Joseph ever considered a competent coach? He wasn't all that great when he was here before." I think the defense was pretty good when he was here, but they had a lot of talent. And when you are a defensive coordinator, that's a big deal for you. Being able to have talent out there. I think Scott, we've talked about this before, and coaching, of course, always matters. But I think on the offensive side of the ball, scheme and the function of the offense, I think, is more credit to coaching the defense. I think on defense, while scheme is still a big part of it, you listen to Wade Phillips talk about that 2015 Broncos team. They ran like 4 plays, 5 plays, just different variations and disguises of it, but that's it. It's a do you have the horses kind of thing out there, in my opinion, for the defense for the most part. In the NFL, college
Yeah,
is different
and
because
no, I agree with that, period.
yeah,
And that's why, When I first started scouting, I learned something from a high school kid.
Mhm.
When I was reporting on recruiting, I said, which do you like playing better? He was a two-way guy, running back, probably an edge. A 200-pound high school kid can play edge in high school. He says, I like playing defense more. I was like, why? Nobody says that. He's like, because I control the game on defense. I can end the play myself. Where the offensive coordination is 10 times more. On the college level, I've always said I'd rather have the coach than the quarterback.
Mhm.
I watched the Tennessee Volunteers with all these really good quarterbacks, and I don't even remember all the names, but they were still a sputtering offense because their offensive coordinator was terrible. 2003 Auburn Tigers had 5 first-round draft picks or thereabouts on offense. Took them 3 games to score a touchdown. They bring in Al Borges, who was okay. He was competent, and they go 14-0 with those same guys, just a year older. So on defense, the other part I'd put in there, it's not it's the players, yes, but it's also the mentality. The
Mhm.
players' mentality. If you don't play with passion and emotion, anger, focus on defense, then it doesn't matter if you're Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, you're not gonna succeed. So that's where I question this, Nick, when we were talking about, if
Yeah.
they've quit, is it's the mentality of this team. Forget the players. If they're not bought in, you hear that all the time. If they're not bought in and if they're not out there laying their bodies on the line in this game, nothing else really matters.
Yeah. And it was just a perfect, storm of what on Sunday as well. The Dolphins are unbelievable right now. I mean, what they're doing with their run design and the pass design is uh, unbelievable. Just really, really special stuff. They're working out down there in Miami with Mike McDaniel. And the Broncos lost their, I think we can say safely at this point, the backbone of the defense, the intelligence, the brain, Justin Simmons and Josie Jewell. And once you lose both of those guys, I mean, you're taking out multiple Jenga pieces, and they just fell immediately without the backbone of the defense. Alex Singleton's missing plays, coverages. Can we stop with the Drew Sanders needs to play constantly conversation? Because he was horrible in this game. Not that he's going to be horrible for his career, but like he's not ready. And missing both those guys. I mean, just the integrity and the structure of the defense collapsed completely. So we'll see if those guys get back. And now we're at the point where, 0-3, the team looks pretty rough. You see these dings and bruises take a little bit longer for guys to get over, and rightfully so. But why would you be, busting your butt to get back out there when you aren't feeling 100%? You got to protect yourself and think long term here. Same with the Broncos with these guys. So I don't know how many reinforcements you are going to be getting and how quickly you'll be getting them this season now that it's already off the rails 3 weeks in.
Yeah, and it seems like Joseph was only a defensive coordinator for 1 year before he took the head coaching job. Is that correct? Based
Yeah,
on what I can see, he's only been a coordinator for 1 season before he was head coach with Denver. That's the Sean McVay thing. I don't remember when Sean McVay took over, but it was like, okay, we got to find this guy did it at 30. We got to go find a 25-year-old. Let's put in the towel boy at Michigan. From the water boy. We had success
mhm,
here. Let's see if we can replicate it. So I don't know. I know he had a little bit of success over at a little bit of success with Miami, enough to get him a head coaching job, but no, I don't have an answer for that. Ended up being 4 years defensive coordinator with Arizona Cardinals, and it's tough to really get a read on anybody with Arizona the last 4 years.
yeah. God, it's not a lot of talent there, but not a lot of talent here too on the defensive side. But we'll see how it plays out. Troy Bauer, 1999 says, "Hey guys, finally watched the recorded game last night. Once again has success while the D regresses. I hope the defensive players have not lost faith." So we're just talking about that. Need improvement like after the Rams game last year to know who's good. Glad we have Chicago next. Yeah, there will not be another 70-point game this season, but I could imagine the efficiency and stuff still be pretty darn poor for the Broncos. I mean, it's just a 3-game sample size, and that 70 game one weighs pretty heavily, but their like EPA per play is unbelievable on that one. I mean, freaking Miami scored 10 touchdowns, so it's of course it's going to be bad when you've only
Yeah, you're
played
not
3
going
games.
through long drives, Nick. Appreciate you, Troy.
Yeah.
Going back, to the question about Drew Sanders and, the back end of the defense and stuff, you saw some of that on one of those Tyreek Hill where he just comes wide open. What happens? They run 2 deep crossing routes from opposite sides, and they cross across the middle of the field, And Tyreek Hill, it ends up being a little bit of a rub route as two guys follow one, and Tyreek Hill comes off by himself. I mean, you got to have 5 seconds to run that play, so you shouldn't be able to run that play. I shouldn't even need defensive backs to defend that play. I should be able to get enough pressure on the quarterback then unless he gets out of there but that was a design play. We know we can sit back here and take 5 seconds in protection and let this play develop. That's a problem, and I don't know how much of that is Vance Joseph is going to fix. When you send 5 guys and they're able to block them with 5 guys, man, what are you going to do? I mean, at this point, I would be playing, a form of prevent. I'd rush my front 4. I'd drop 7 into a cloud coverage and hope to not give up big plays.
And overall, they did not really give up big plays against Miami, which is so crazy. I mean, you had the 54-yarder on the first drive, but other than that, I mean, it was just killing them. And I got to say, something we talked about on here a lot, and I don't know how much you'll agree with me on this, Scott, but the edge setting from the Broncos and the tackling in space, specifically, I mean, pass rush is more valuable, but this one, the Miami Dolphins, looks like they targeted a weakness in the Broncos in terms of their outside linebackers' ability to set the edge, the cornerback's ability to tackle in space, the safeties coming down to Larry Turner-Yell tackling, and they made, Mostert and Devon Achane look like, Bo Jackson and Barry Sanders because they were just getting obliterated up front in that. It's not just the pass rush. They can't tackle or set the edge in run defense either. And that, I mean, you have to have an all systems failure to be that bad as they were on Sunday. But that's one that I feel like we're not talking enough about. The edge setting and the run defense on the perimeter was high school level out there. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Now, it goes back. You can't be that bad and be giving good effort. It's just, it's impossible. You can't convince me otherwise that you are going all out with full belief in what you were doing with competent directions. I don't want to hear, well, we just didn't execute. Normally you hear that on offense. You don't hear that on defense, but it's the same concept, Nick. We just didn't execute what Vance Joseph wanted us to do. No. You guys were in and out of position. You weren't getting off blocks. You weren't making tackles. You weren't staying with your men in the secondary. As you said, it was a total, complete, top-to-bottom system failure, which then goes, well, who's to blame? Well, Sean Payton. Sean Payton it all comes down to him, then George. To Vance Joseph, and then on down the line to the defensive coaches, all the way down to, I think Fabian Moreau may have gotten 2 snaps, all the way down to the last guy on defense. It was a complete failure.
Yep. And we'll see how short their memory is in this one. What is it? Ted Lasso be a goldfish? You're not going to all of a sudden have amazing talent or coordination here, but it's got to get better than that. Dr. Van Nostrand coming in. Good to see you. Says, I hope the Broncos don't draft a quarterback unless they plan on sitting him for a while. Should trade back and stockpile as many picks as possible. They have so many holes in the roster that need to be filled. If you have a chance at a quarterback that you absolutely adore, even if you're not in the best situation for them right away, you take the quarterback because it is almost impossible, if not completely impossible, to go up and get that guy. The only way you're ever getting a Caleb Williams, an Andrew Luck, a Trevor Lawrence is if you earn them by sucking that badly. And Caleb Williams, Drake May, both quarterbacks that are in that as close to a can't miss as possible. Obviously, they're still prospects, so things happen. But I think you take it, and then you're thinking, we got this guy for the next 10 to 15 years. We got a coach in an offensive scheme that we trust as well, which I think even though you're lacking talent, you can trust him to protect him at least. So I think that if you have a chance at one of those top 2 quarterbacks in this class, you take it and you're resetting the timeline. I think you don't have a choice.
Yeah, and that's specific to these 2 quarterbacks that we're talking about that Nick and I both – it's not just Nick and I. Come on. You know what I mean. That you're listening to Nick and I. We agree on the fact that these 2 guys are franchise caliber quarterbacks, high-level prospects. If you don't think that, then absolutely you want to come out of that spot. You want more picks. You want more players, more picks, more contract flexibility. You want all of those things, Doc. I agree. But to get a prospect of the caliber that you think these 2 guys can become, if you don't take them, it's incredibly expensive, damn near impossible to do that. We do Falcons podcasts. You can just look over at the Atlanta Falcons for exactly what we're talking about. Their roster is really good. They passed on the opportunity to take a quarterback and now they're struggling. We'll see. If they hit on a third-round guy in Desmond Ridder, which is still very questionable, that's hitting the lottery. That's a cheat code, as Nick likes to say. You
Scratch
can't
ticket.
count on that. You cannot count on getting a guy in the third round. And Brock Purdy. Well, look at Brock Purdy. With a small enough sample size, I can prove any point you want. I should be drafting quarterbacks in the 6th and 7th round, right? Tom Brady. I should be looking for guys stocking groceries for my Super Bowl MVP. That's where I should be looking for my quarterback, right, Kurt Warner?
Hy-Vee,
playing
baby.
the percentages, if you've got a top 2 pick, you're taking quarterback. Absolutely taking quarterback this year.
I will say there'll be, if the Broncos do get the 3rd overall pick, we will have a lot of interesting discussions about because let's just assume it's 2 quarterbacks first. I might ask for a cost that is unfeasible for teams to come up and get Marvin Harrison Jr. If you make me a price or make me an offer, I cannot deny that kind of thing. But that's I think you probably reset it. And Dr. Van Nostrand comes in again, so they just don't want them throwing out a rookie and everything, think it's going to fix everything. You have to put a rookie quarterback in a good situation, or it can kill their confidence. We've seen so far. Let's just put the defense in the garbage here in a contained area. Offense this week, I still only put up 13 points, but this is such a weird game. Overall, I think the scheme, the designs, and the specific infrastructure and insulation around Russell Wilson has been good this season. I would say that if we had the defense we saw the first 8 weeks last year with what we've seen from the offense this year, you're talking about a 10-win team, 11-win team. I really, truly do believe that. So I think that even though the defense needs a lot of work, offensive signings that they've had, they're going to have to take a little bit of a step back in talent. But I think that you can do enough with Sean Payton and some of these guys that you have here already to protect a quarterback through that first year and a half, when you are probably still going to be bouncing off the floor a bit from where you are as a roster building, a roster perspective.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it's about not you can absolutely hurt the quarterback confidence. Trevor Lawrence, I think, was in a pretty rough situation in Jacksonville, and he struggled. He was protected. Justin Fields, we're ready to write him off, but is it Justin Fields? I don't know that for sure. Is it all on Justin Fields, or would he be in a better situation somewhere else? Bryce Young at Carolina is struggling. I think Anthony Richardson's gotten off to a good start. And a lot of it, to me, Nick, has to do with the coaching around them. But the Colts have a highly paid, high potential offensive line, a good running game, and a good quarterback coach in Shane Steichen. CJ Stroud, I was a little more worried about. In Houston, defensive coach, et cetera, not a great roster. And he seems to be doing okay.
Another one of those 49ers coaches coming down the lines from that Shanahan tree, Bobby Slowick out there, the offensive coordinator at Houston. I'm guessing it'll be before long he's a head coach, because everybody needs to get a little taste of that Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan tree. Antoine coming in here saying we are the new Detroit Lions. Yeah, it's rough right now, and probably going to be a little rough still for the next few seasons, but it's cyclical. You can be down forever, but look at the Lions now. They are legitimately one of the best teams in the NFC, in my opinion, and they tore it down, and they got a bunch of picks right, and they're heading the right direction. So it can get right. It's just been the Broncos are in a really bad spot. Addison said if they have a top 5 pick, they have to get a quarterback. I don't think there are 5 quarterbacks worth top 5 picks, so it depends on who's there. But that's kind of like where the Falcons were at a few years ago, picking 4. It's like, oh, we liked some of these guys, maybe good in hindsight. You didn't get them in Wilson/Lance, but yeah, that's a you can only pick from the board that's available to you when you're on the clock. Jamal Killians, good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. Greg Weaver saying, can VJ? Yeah, definitely sentiment there. It feels inevitable. Dom coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos Country. Tim Durr's in the house. Good morning. Miguel. We got Quentin Caldwell in the house. Always good to see you. Let Loose saying, fire him. He is lame. Any good firing news, says Kevin. Yeah, Broncos Country is ready for him to be gone. Clayton coming in saying, morning, guys. Smash that like button and share. What are we drinking for coffee this morning? Scott, I'm sure you are the same as me, drinking Lion coffee out here. Our big supporter, Patrick. I love the macadamia and vanilla one. So good. Yeah, Lion coffee out there in Hawaii. Patrick is a fellow suffering Broncos fan. There you go. Evidence. It's not just water. But yeah, no, drinking Lion coffee. So good. He keeps us caffeinated, and we really do appreciate that. I mean, God, but it's unbelievable how much of a benefactor that line coffee has been for these morning shows. Albert Nopper saying good morning, y'all. Hope you're doing well. Joey coming in saying fire Peyton. Something we haven't even talked about yet on here, Scott. But I mean, he's the one who, in my
Yeah,
opinion,
we
Vance
did. We
Joseph
did a lot yesterday, right? To
yesterday.
kick the
Yes,
show off. Yeah.
yes, but not today. Is Peyton's? I mean, is there any chance that Peyton is back next season? No.
No, he's a lame duck right now. He's just there. And I've seen some questions in here. It's like, why fire him? He didn't have any control. He didn't do any over this. I'm like, okay, well, you just kind of answered your own question. Why have him there then? If he's a lame duck, why is he there? What exactly do you do here?
No.
We've got his fingerprints over the moves that have led into some of these things, but I'm not convinced how involved he was with the hiring of Sean Payton, and I'm not sure how convinced he is with the moves that Sean Payton has made, other than these are my recommendations, coach. Sean Payton's a general manager of this team. That's a problem. It's a conflict of interest. It's two totally different skill sets. They always let the coaches hire their other coaches. That's pretty universal. I'm not sure how good an idea that is. Also, there's a lot of cronyism that goes on in there, Nick. And you might not always be getting a good look at some of the up and coming minds. There's a lot of football that gets played around this country. There's some bright people out there. Why does it seem like we're always recycling the same names? Cronyism.
Yep. Not just nepotism, unless you're in Iowa with the Ferences, but the cronyism is the word of the day for sure on that one. Yeah, it's Peyton's time is coming. The one thing that's really weird about this is that let's say the Broncos do lose at the Bears, it's fire sale time. And are you having Peyton negotiate the moves when he is probably on his way out at an 0-4 team and losing to Chicago? Do you have somebody else in the building? I mean, do you move on from him right then? Do you make the moves and then fire him? I mean, it's such a weird position because I mean, I don't know if he's walking around, you hear dead man walking kind of thing going on with him and a few of these guys already 3 weeks in. It's God, how are we here again, Scott? It's unbelievable.
I looked it up last night because I don't remember if it was Troy or who it was, but with the super chat last night and talking about maybe Keith Brugman. Anyway, one of our great community members was talking about with these players, this is what you can save with little to no dead cap. And it was Cortland Sutton, Justin Simmons, Garrett Bowles, Randy Gregory, DJ Jones was on the list, Josie Jewell. And I felt like there was one more. So that's 6. And then not Alex Engel. That was 6. And if you just, Tim Patrick, that was the one. He wasn't on the list because he's listed differently. With those 7 guys and their contracts, if you were to just flat out cut them, Jewell's a free agent, so he comes off anyway. If you were to just flat out cut them, there would be $100 million in cap savings against a $25 million dead cap hit. $75 million in cap savings. The problem is a good chunk of that gets eaten up by guys that are still on contract that are very unflexible. Mike McGlinchey, Russell Wilson are 2 big ones. Jerry Jeudy is guaranteed next year at 12-13, but there's $75 million right there. And if you can move any of that, if you can get 7th round picks and $3 million for 6 players, that 25 becomes 7 in dead cap, so you can get some of that money back. If you can make a trade, that's a fire sale. A fire sale is everything must go. We don't really care what we get from it. They've got to go. So if you get down to it's got to go, you're talking $75 million in available cap space.
And you also have a question about, the Russell Wilson contract too. He's not the problem right now in Denver. I think he's playing top 12, top 10 quarterback level. He's getting paid top 5. He paid more than top 10, but still he's been more than adequate. But you have to make a decision on him, and it's a 5th day of the league year next year. Then it's like a 2-year contract that kicks in. So we'll see what happens.
He's played his way back into a market, Nick.
You think that, as we talked about that, a potential trade where you eat some of the cap, but
you'd have to eat almost all of it. You'd still take a dead cap, but let's say his base salary for 2024 is only $17 million. That's not much. I mean, for I'd have to look it up, but I bet 17 is in the 15 to 20 range for pay. Yeah. So if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I'll take 17. I'll take his salary off your hands at $17 million, and I'm going to send you a 4th.
You probably consider it in the clean reset on that
And
one.
I would consider it as the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you'd absolutely consider that. You're getting some money back, you're getting a draft pick back out of it, that he's playing his way into a market again. The contract is so bad that if you move on from him, you're going to take a huge dead cap either way. But that 80 then drops down to 60
Mhm.
for the dead cap number, which helps. That's good. And good morning, Michael. Appreciate you coming in
Yeah.
early. But
Yep.
if
Thank you,
there's
Michael.
any good side, if there's any bright side of this, is that Russell Wilson has played his way into a market again
Mhm.
for 17 million of his base salary for 2024.
Yeah, and he's not been the issue on here. The offense still only put up 13 points this week, but it's such a weird fluky game. I'm not going to take too much away from that from the offense. Uh, he's been playing more than adequate. Somebody out there would love to have him, without a doubt. And it's not that he's wrong, and I think the Broncos have to get rid of him because he's so terrible. But it's more so how the direction of the team and the roster aligns with Russell Wilson's age. I just can't imagine them building the roster around him in time to take advantage of the next 2 seasons after this one.
No,
And things change quickly in the NFL. I know that, but you're so devoid of talent. I don't know how that happens, and I don't know.
no, to your point, Nick, this is why he's got to go. It's not. It has nothing to do with his. Oh, it's Russell Wilson's fault. Forget that. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Look around him. Look at where this team is. Next year, he'll be 36 years old and have a 35.5 cap hit. The year after that, 2025, he'll be 37 years old and have a 55.5 million cap hit. You can't extend him or restructure because then you're pushing more money into his 40s. That's why
Yeah.
you've got to move on from Russell Wilson as soon as you can, because the team around him, whether you think he's the guy or not, it's
Mhm.
irrelevant. It's about the
Yep.
money and where the team is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Mark McDonald comes in and says the fact that the Broncos aren't firing Vance Josephs makes me think they are purposely tanking. What other reason is there not to fire him? It's because when you fire somebody in the season with a coaching staff, you've pretty much already made your bed for the year. And what you're doing is you're making things a lot harder on the coaching staff and players that are already there and spreading them even thinner. So that's the argument for not doing it. Also, the other argument is you're 3 weeks in. Can you imagine what the admittance of failure and just incompetency that would be on the head coach who hired Vance Joseph as well to his staff to fire him only after 3 weeks? So those are the reasons, trying to save a little face, trying to hopefully protect the guys in there. I could see the Broncos, maybe diminishing some of Vance Joseph's role or bringing somebody else up or in to help as well. But uh, I'm also not saying that they shouldn't fire Vance Joseph. I mean, when you see a game like that, somebody needs to be accountable. It can't just be like, oh shucks, yeah, this isn't like college football, and it's no offense, but like a team like, I don't know, Idaho going up against Alabama, and they're getting like absolutely obliterated. Like 70-20 makes sense for Idaho versus Georgia or something like that. But for the NFL, unacceptable. So if they fired somebody, I wouldn't fault them, but I also understand the real human and logistical reasons for still keeping him on staff, even though it probably is inevitable that he's out of here.
Mark, appreciate the big stars coming in. You came in huge last night for us. Thank you for all the support.
Hell yeah, Mark.
And
Thanks.
and I don't know, but purposely Tang, I just start thinking morale. If I'm working in this company and I see they bring in a guy and only give him 3 weeks and fire him, I'm looking over my shoulder, and frankly, I'm sending out resumes. I know
Mhm.
if I have, a bad week, I'm gonna get fired too. I don't want to be here. So
Mhm.
trying to show some belief, I guess, without throwing in the towel. I don't worry so much about just trying to save face. I'm too afraid to admit when I'm wrong. I think it's trying to just salvage something.
Mhm.
Can you salvage this? Can you keep the morale on the staff up? Now, as soon as you are convinced that the players are not playing for this guy, then it's over. And a lot of us feel that way after the Miami game. That's why this Broncos Bears game is going to be so important to the personnel moves and the administrative moves that could happen over the next couple of days. I mean, not days, but 10
Mhm.
days.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. I think it's too early to talk about tanking, but you're talking the end of the season, 3 games left, and you're in position there, and a couple wins puts you at pick 8, but a couple losses puts you at pick 1 or 2 or 3. Then you probably need to be thinking business decisions there. But we're too far away from that finish line to even have that have that real conversation right now. So it's going to be interesting to follow, no doubt. The Broncos are bad, but not boring right now. Naj coming in saying either the players quit, second time in the past 6 games, or the talent is not NFL worthy. I don't know if it's mutually exclusive, Naj, but yes, this is on Sean Payton. Got to get the correct name in there for the audio folks. His arrogance is fuel for opponents. He picked that $300 million of free agents and appears has lost the locker room in 3 weeks. Shake my head. It could be Sean Payton. Smack my head. Yeah, there we go. It could be Sean Payton is the issue here. I'm curious to see what happens now that it's gone so poorly, and he'll probably get even more power with George Payton out and whoever he brings in here. The dynamic that's different is that you have the Walton Penner group, who is definitely truly in charge here in Denver. But yeah, it's if we're talking about the team still looking this bad, a year from now, we'll see what the roster looks like between now and then. If they completely tear it down, we'll have a little bit of a different discussion. But yeah, Sean Payton is definitely not absolved of blame. But the reason you're not hearing a lot of conversation about him right now is because you are definitely stuck with him for at least the next year and a half. I mean, trading for him, the contract he gave, you're going to get, and for what he did with the Saints too, you're going to give him a chance to turn this around. But this early results are pretty damn poor. Of course.
Well, I mean, let's look at this, Nick, and because as you said, it's not necessarily mutually exclusive. Either the players have quit or the talent is not NFL worthy. Those aren't mutually exclusive. If I'm looking at the defense that I'm going to be throwing out there and that was out there against the Miami Dolphins and who I'm going to face with the Bears, Jonathan Harris, no. DJ Jones, yes, as far as NFL guys. Zach Allen, yes, but he's not playing very well right now in a new situation. Randy Gregory, no, he's a situational at best. Drew Sanders, no, not yet. Josie Jewell is out. Justin Strnad, no. So there's 3 out of 5. Alex Singleton, yes. Jonathan Cooper, backup. Damari Mathis, no. Kareem Jackson, no. Delarian Turner-Yell, no. Pat Surtain, no. I got 8-3. I got 8-3 on guys that shouldn't be NFL starters on your defense right now.
No. Not good.
Prove me wrong.
I mean, they got to prove us wrong on that.
You know what I mean? It's like we talk about this a lot. Oh, it's the same guys that are out there as the beginning of last year. Well, one, you didn't face anybody near the caliber of the Miami Dolphins last year. And no, it's not. It's not the same guys that are out there last year. You've replaced, 2/3 of your front 3. Randy Gregory has been a disaster for this team. He's been a disaster. You want to make a statement? Cut his ass.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, you want to talk about going out there and not giving, at least in week 2, I was seeing him make hustle plays. He can't get off a block for nothing, but at least he gets a lot of chase down plays. He gets a lot of backside guys, some coverage sacks, I'm swinging around from the backside and I tackle a running back. He's athletic as hell. He can't get off blocks. Nick Bonitto is very similar, except Randy Gregory can at least hold his ground a little better. Nick Bonitto doesn't get off blocks, and if it's a running play, he gets pushed backwards. Jonathan Cooper, he's okay. He's a good rotation guy, but I don't want him starting.
Mm-hmm.
So it is. There's a it's so easy to say fire Vance Joseph because it makes you feel better to think if I make one change, everything will be all right. It's not that easy.
No. Yeah, it's not. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, Peyton, not a lot of blame right now, but it's coming. So hopefully it'll be good. We'll see how. Hopefully it'll be improved. We got Tyler coming in saying, "Morning, gents. My question is, how do you get the players to play with heart after the coaches have lost them?" This is the NFL, and they are
real quick. Tyler's got some stars. I want to come back to him.
Okay.
I thought I counted Surtain.
You counted him as one of the pluses.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way I didn't. I mean, there is a way I didn't. There's no way I meant that. I didn't mean that, but I thought I came up with 3 guys. They were DJ Jones.
I would say 4. I'd put
Alex
Jewell in
Singleton.
There. Yeah.
And Pat Surtain. And I think Zach Allen is one. He just hasn't played there yet. He hasn't played that way yet.
And Simmons was out and probably
Yeah, and
might miss
Simmons is
more time
out,
too.
so
Yeah,
Simmons is out. So again,
Jules
the
out.
defense that you're throwing out there right now, how many NFL guys do you have out there? NFL starters. I love the WAR stat. Wins against replacement. Average NFL guys. How many do you have out there right now? 3.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yep. Not great.
Thank you
Typically,
for your
most teams
patience, Tyler.
most teams probably have 9, right? Because you're talking average out there. So it's and the depth is terrible too. I mean, that's one thing that's really been exposed here. It's the same team as last year. Well, you're already really banged up front, and you've replaced Draymond Jones for Zach Allen. That's been a downgrade. Bradley Chubb for Randy Gregory, who missed early last year. That's been a big downgrade. Even though we like to give Bradley Chubb a hard time around here, but that's been a downgrade. Ronald Darby for Damari Mathis. That's been a downgrade. Pretty much across the board, it's gotten worse. DJ Jones is playing worse this year. You're out with Simmons already. Kareem Jackson a year older. I mean,
I can target one guy.
Yeah.
If I got DJ Jones and he's the only one I have to worry about among your front 5, I can handle him.
Yeah, he's not a difference maker. He's a good complementary player. You'd like him to be your 8th best guy in your defense, not your, what is he right now? Your 2nd best, your 3rd best. So that's not great. Tyler's comment here says, question is, how do you get your players to play with heart after coaches have lost them? These guys are professionals. This isn't, high school or college ball. They should be out there playing for, protecting themselves and playing for themselves. They want out there and put out good tape too. I mean, this is their livelihood. So if you have guys in there that can't even come in and have enough self-respect to play for themselves and their career and do the best job they can, then that's a totally different issue entirely. You're targeting soft individuals in that case. I don't know. I don't put as much as far as the playing with heart on the coaching. I think it's a lot player to player. I mean, and how many guys do you actually have that fire within? But I mean, coaching is also an issue, but I think a lot of people, like you mentioned, Scott, and we've talked about it a lot on here. Oh, if we fire Vance Joseph, everything will be back to normal. No, defenses change quick, NFL change quick, and you don't have the horses. You can fire Vance Joseph. You might feel better for a bit, and then you see the defense out there next week and they're giving up 50 again. They're still going to suck.
Yeah, it's not that easy, and that's where we've talked about for 18 months. If it goes bad in 2023, these contracts are set up to hit the nuke button and start over, and that's the track we're on. It's going to take a massive turnaround. I saw when we were talking about coordination here, I started this comment for Jeremy. We wanted to come back to it because I thought it was a good comment as far as, the most penalized defense. Whose fault is that? It's not always on the coordinator on this. If guys are getting whipped, they foul. I'm beat, I'm grabbing. I'm defensive holding. This guy's got me whipped, I have to hold on. I've gotten beaten, I can save a touchdown, I got to knock him down for pass interference. So it's not always, again, part of this, it's not all just one thing. Part of the answer to this question, Jeremy, could be that it's the players who aren't good enough that are having to try and get away with things in order to make up for the fact that they can't compete at this level.
Yeah. And what's crazy too? We're so down in the dumps on this team right now, but you have 2 very winnable games coming up here against the Bears and the Jets. It could be 2-3 here in 2 weeks like that. I mean, it really could. The offense is doing enough. Maybe, don't want to get embarrassed again out here like we saw the Broncos this week. I mean, you're 2-3. Then you play the Chiefs, Chiefs, and the Packers actually look like they have something there in Jordan Love. I'm so sorry for all my Bears friends out there, but it could be, just like that. We're dragged right back in. What's the quote? I mean, just when I thought I was out, you dragged me back in. That could be the Broncos here if they beat the Bears and beat the Jets. So right now, it's definitely, we are as low and dark in this as possible, but it's only 0-3. And you have games still to be played. It's a 14-game season. It could be a completely different team by the end. I don't see the talent, and that's something we talked about specifically on defense to begin with. So I don't know how much difference even coaching can make. I mean, who's the best defensive coach ever? Bill Belichick, let's say, just the best defensive mind, maybe. You put him back there. Defense is still probably giving up 50 last week. So I don't know. It's going to be pretty tough because I just don't. It's a talent issue as much as anything.
Orange Bucky thinks maybe the Broncos will be like the Cleveland Indians in the movie Major League, and Tom Berenger come out and says, "Win every freaking game." All right, we're gonna have to. Jeremy will help me out with this one though. The problem with that was Lou Brown's Indians had just gone on a streak and had just pushed to 500. I think they were 60-62 at the time. It says, it's starting to come together, Pepper. It's starting to come together. And that's when the assistant GM came down and told him, I know you guys are playing great. Rachel Phelps will never let this happen. So while they were playing great, Jake Taylor says there's only one thing left to do, win the whole effing thing. This team's on the wrong end of that right now. The arrow's pointing in the wrong direction. That major league team was on their way up, and they came together. Good idea, but a little different circumstances.
We'll see what happens with the games coming up. We still got 14 to go.
Twice.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like Major League 2 as well.
I didn't see that one.
Okay.
I didn't even watch it. I saw like parts of it, but I didn't. Sometimes with movies, the premise of them and stuff is so good and so original that the originality is what makes it so good that it's like I don't need to see a copy of this. Yeah. So I didn't see Caddyshack 2 either.
I didn't see that one either. But man, first one, so good. Maybe we'll start, if the Broncos start getting so bad, we'll start reading the Caddyshack manuscript here or something. It's
the worst looking hat I ever saw. Looks good on you though.
God, what a good movie. Jesse Fraley coming in, $10. Thank you so much, Jesse. I don't see a comment here from Jesse, so just the no comment dropping in support. God bless you, Jesse. We really do appreciate that coming in here. And it's the last, 5, 10, 15 minutes we have here. Scott, is there any way in heck that the Broncos can turn this around? And I guess, yes, there is a way, but is there any way that you can possibly see it happening, that the Broncos turn this around enough on defense that not only is defense playing better and everything, but Vance Joseph is back?
Going into the Miami Dolphins game, we said, why? Yes, it's possible. Stranger things have happened. You can go in. It's not completely out of the question that you go in and win this game. And then we saw the Colts go into Baltimore and upset them. We saw Houston put a pretty good whooping on Jacksonville, and I'm pretty sure that was in Jacksonville. We saw the Cardinals beat a pretty good Dallas Cowboys team. Yeah. We saw the Denver Broncos literally lay down against the Miami Dolphins. Why it was so dangerous to start off 0-2 was because 0-2 could turn into 1-7 in a hurry. One game at a time. That's all you can focus on right now. Can you beat the Bears? We're talking 31-32. It's a clash of the ages. The movable object meets the resistible force on Sunday. And that's a battle for maybe we can salvage something versus, okay, we're picking number 1 overall. Yeah. So we'll see. One game at a time. And right now, I'm not sure you can beat the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, we saw with the Broncos' run defense in this game. I didn't even mention this, but I know everybody was excited in preseason with the Sang Bassi coverage plays, but I always had questions about the physical, gifted nature of him. And my God, did Mike McDaniel in that run game have a Sang Bassi in hell this week trying to tackle in space? Not good. At some point, you feel bad for the players because they're just so outmatched. And that was one of the cases on that one. So Quan Williams to Sang Bassi, massive drop-off in the run game. We talked about it on here, Scott. I mean, I don't listen to other folks so much because I don't want to be biased in our analysis. But we talked about losing Quan Williams and what it would mean for the run defense in nickel. And I got to say, I couldn't even have fathomed the drop-off that we saw this week from the edge defense in space and tackling. But and to the point of that, the Bears struggling passing the ball. I'm curious if you see them get back to what they did last season, a little bit more quarterback power, quarterback run, zone options, and really target the Broncos' edge run defense because, my God, they were an abomination this last week against the Dolphins.
Yeah, Kawhi Williams, and I didn't say this, I meant it when I said it. It was, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not hyperbole. It was not hyperbole when I said it. He was your best run edge defender last year. He really was. He was better than any of the outside linebacker / edges you had that are 240 plus pounds.
Yep.
That's still a problem.
Yeah.
That he was your number 1 edge defender was a problem.
Yeah. And man, he wouldn't have made a difference in this game, maybe a touchdown or something, but at some point you're taking on too much water. Jules,
and it filters down. Yeah. It's like, okay, I take him in, then I've got to move someone else in. Now I'm, would a Sang Bassi be better, over here, or Damari Mathis be better over here? Now I'm moving places around, and we talk about, okay, would it make sense to move this offensive lineman, Quinn Miners, to center? Well, there's no guarantee that that's going to be a lot better. And you just pretty much for sure weakened your right guard position. So it has a ripple effect on there. Naj, the ripple effect for supporting us is awesome. Never thought in my life we would be the worst team in NFL history. Well, I don't think you're there yet. If we see these guys lifeless versus the Bears and lose by 30 points, then you might be there, Naj. We should be calling any team who would trade for Peyton, the Chargers, and move on. Thoughts? Try and recoup some draft picks for your head coach in season. That would be
ballsy,
new,
interesting.
That would be innovative. It would be unprecedented is the word I'm looking for. I need some more coffee. My brain's stuck like right here.
Yeah, that's okay. It is Tuesday morning.
Hyperbole. It's these too many like 3-4 syllable words. I'm a public school guy. What am I thinking?
These eggheads, right? God, this is fools. No, it's just football. Yeah, maybe we'll see what happens in the offseason. I think that Peyton has a pretty long leash here in Denver unless something, off the field happens for him. But yeah, they're going to give him another offseason to kind of figure it out here. The real question will be the juxtaposition. How's that for another big word? Cronyism, juxtaposition. We're getting it in today. Sean Payton's always been, a gear up and go for it kind of coach, seems like. And we saw that this offseason too. Oh, the Broncos going to be good. Well, they're spending like they think they're going to be good, spending the most money, guaranteed money in the league this year. And here are the results. Can Sean Payton, the coach, step back and be the head man for a rebuild? Because that's what this team needs. No, this is, putting a Band-Aid on a stab wound at this point. You need to get the cap right, get rid of a lot of these contracts, get rid of the losing culture. A lot of these guys, it's not really all their fault, but you need a clean sweep, reset the cap, reset your assortment of draft capital, your war chest there, not trading up in the draft for guys and making it so that you have less picks, because guess what? All the defensive issues right now, a lot of that probably can be pointed to lack of hitting depth draft picks because we're backup, and they show they can't play. That's sometimes the case with 5th rounders, 6th rounders, but if you have more picks, better odds of hitting that, better depth. So I'm curious to see how that dynamic works, because Sean Payton, ever since he was in New Orleans, it was, the dead cap, the void years, we're going for it, crazy stuff because we're in our window. Denver's not in their window. Can he be a coach of a team that is in an obvious rebuild? Because that's what they need. I mean, you have to tear off the Band-Aid.
Yeah, I thought the trade for Peyton, that'd be nice to be able to recoup that, Naj. Thank you. And I hope you saw last night. I'm pretty sure you were there. You're number one, dude, on the Super Chat rankings. Number one, numero uno, with about 5 days left to go. And this certainly isn't going to hurt your case. Rob coming in says, good morning, Nick and Deacon Scott. I'm a huge Peyton fan, but at what point do people sour on him? It's started. There's some curdling going on right now. Can he do no wrong for the whole year? 2 years? No, he's not. Again, he's an arrogant jerk, which is fine when he's your arrogant jerk. You love him for it. Y'all have loved him for it, but that wears off quickly when you're 0 for 3. So you got to be able to back that up. Otherwise, you're just a deluded jerk. That doesn't play very well. You start taking shots at reporters, they'll turn on you quick. So no, it's got to start getting better. He shows some humility. Usually when he says something that's a little terse on one day, he comes back and softens it the next. So at what point do people sour on him? It started already, Rob. It has. It's absolutely started already. You didn't mind him going after Nathaniel Hackett when you were, going to be 2-1 after 3 games, but now you're worried about them coming in and embarrassing you. And that makes you feel bad as a Broncos fan. It started, Rob.
Yeah, and he's made it harder on himself, and I'm not saying that he should have done it differently, but from the very beginning, he's come in and been a closed door to local media, and been a little bit coarse with local media as well. But all these open access stories and these really good things for the national media reporters that come in. So I think the local media is a little bit jaded by him for his approach this offseason, not really being open to them, but open to everybody else walking through there. And that's going to make it harder on him as well, because who's asking him the questions week after week in these losses? the local media and those press conferences and conference calls. So it can
And more
be
importantly,
rough.
you know who else?
The ownership group.
Greg Penner.
Yeah.
And George Payton might just be sitting there going, I told you should have done this. I told you shouldn't have done that. You should have listened to me. He's going to get a nice payout and he'll move on and he'll be employed somewhere pretty quickly too. That's the thing is at that level, I saw it was a different sport. I felt bad for this manager because of this. Dude, he got $30 million for 6 months work. I don't feel too bad for him. And that was also when we were talking about the Penner money is you don't want it to be just a monetary decision, or these are the kind of results you can end up getting with people looking to cash in, which is another reason you make some guy. I'm not paying off your contract right now. You're going to suffer with the rest of us. There's another reason you don't make that fire, Nick, on Vance Joseph. Thomas Seha coming in. He says, I've been really curious. What do you realistically think the talks in the facility has been the last 2 days? This was embarrassing on every level. I think it's a great question, Thomas. I think there's been some closed door meetings. I'm sure that Greg Penner has met with Sean Payton. I'm sure there's been some closed door meetings with the coaching staff, obviously. But for the most part, I think it's denial. It's watch the film, flush it onto the Chicago Bears. I think it's almost like an injury. We want to pretend it never happened because we don't want to think that it can happen to us. Can't happen again. We don't want to will it into existence. I think there's been some denial going on. And then there's some other guys who are planning their next move on their phone with their agents. Get me out of here.
Yeah. Going to be interesting. Thank you so much, Thomas. This is a name I don't recognize for the super chats coming in. So Thomas Seja.
You remember that beard, Nick?
Yeah, we would remember. That's a good looking face. I like that face. Quoting "It's a Wonderful Life" there. It's almost Christmas time, right? We got to get through Halloween first. Saw an interesting JoJo. Channel won't tell you the truth. They're afraid Denver office will shut them out. It's all biased and scripted. Careful what you say. Ownership group is listening. I just had to get a good laugh in.
JoJo, or is that Ho Cano? JoJo, this won't tell you the truth. They're afraid Denver will shut you out. I'm not credentialed, dude. I'll say what I want. We just took a shot at Peyton. We just took a shot at both Peytons, the whole team, Gregory, and you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
What truth are you looking for here? Goodness gracious.
Also,
it is all biased. We're all biased. Bias is what makes up who we are. Nobody is unbiased. Nobody. Bias is what personality is.
Also, if this is scripted, we are definitely the trickle down from like the SAG.
The writer's strike.
Writer's strike is hitting us hard because it's this isn't getting good.
Yeah, the writer's like, they're gonna close me out, dude. I live in Atlanta.
Yeah,
I live in Atlanta. What are they gonna shut me out? They're gonna shut me out of Dove Valley. Look out! Got my
the only way.
On the wall. My picture on the wall.
Only thing they could do would be making us not watch the games, losing access to watching the games, because that's what we're doing. We talk to some people here and there, but not to the point where we're worried about any sort of relationship there. Biggest, who holds us accountable? Well, Scott and I, each other, but also you guys in the chat, not the team, not any of that. We're still going to be here. It'll be interesting to follow, but yeah, pretty fun to get out of here. Now, I don't know. There's plenty that you can criticize us about, but that one is kind of a funny one because we're definitely not sunshine rainbows. There's plenty. When you're as bad as the Broncos have been, everybody's covered in shit, and that's unfortunately the case in Dove Valley right now. Smelling a little bit more like Greeley out there in Dove Valley. I'm sorry if you live in Greeley. I know that's a cattle area that can smell a little bit interesting. But Scott, final question before we wrap it on up here. The over-under on the week, Vance Joseph is fired.
Oh, man. It's so weak. It feels like it could be week to week. But that said, you feel like if he lasts this week, he'll last the season.
I could see something.
Monday? Week 18? Monday?
So you think after the Bears game?
I just think... We say it before how much, it can't really get any worse. If he survived the Dolphins game, right now I feel like if he survived the Dolphins game, he'll survive the season.
Yeah.
Week 18, Black Friday, Black Monday.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance to survive the season. The only thing that makes me think that things could be different there would be if you do want to see a Marcus Dixon or a Christian Parker in a small sample size towards the end, so like the last
Yeah.
5 weeks, then maybe
Get
that's
an
a scenario.
interim.
Yep.
Mhm.
But other than that, I can't see a massive turnaround right now. And the other dark thing is, let's say you do lose this week because the defense again and you're 0-4. I guess you just get him out because you need to figure out something else going on there. But you're not really going to shake things up too much where it's going to make a difference. So Ken and HB with the beautiful dog face there. That's a good looking dog. Says, what about picking up Darren Hall, ex-Falcon, now in Indy's practice squad? Scott should know whether he would fit. Is Darren Hall the former Northern Iowa cornerback? That name stands out to me.
I couldn't remember where he went. He was he was a decent round pick, second or third round pick. Played a lot of games for Atlanta. Um, he's a significant upgrade over Fabian Moreau. That much I will guarantee you. Could you sign him and put him in there? Yeah, he would be better than what Damari Mathis has been playing. Again, we're talking the low hanging fruit here, but for my 53, I could take him. I would sign him from Indy's practice squad and put him out there and let him play. He can play nickel. He'd be a better corner right now than Damari Mathis is, and maybe let him move around some.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a decent shout. You could do worse than Darren Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. An Army mom.
This town needs an enema.
Town needs an exorcism for sure. Army mom, see your comments. And you also see Peter coming in saying number one receiver Marvin Mims. That's another thing we can talk about. Mims has been great. We haven't mentioned him once today, but he's been good in the small sample size. And you're talking about bringing in Caleb Williams to a defunct team. Well, at least he'll have a deep threat to get to, and that's something to build on. So it's the team isn't completely devoid of talent. But man, they're a ways off from a legitimate team. Patrick Wiltsey coming in saying, aloha, my coffee brothers. Patrick, aloha means hello and goodbye. And that's a perfect time for us to get out of here too. Thank you so much. We were hyping you up earlier for your coffee supplies. We appreciate you so much, so much. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle as well as BFB_pod. If you haven't done so yet, join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says here underneath, please subscribe to our show over on YouTube, Mile High Huddle. Like this specific show right now, Building the Broncos, talking about Vance Joseph today, and share it on your social media platform. Obviously, it's a weird time again in Broncos country with how fast things have gotten off the rails, but we're going to continue to be here and exercise those demons and talk football, building the team, where to go from here, answer all your stuff. So if you have anything that we didn't get to or any comments or critiques, hit us up on Twitter. We always appreciate hearing from you guys. And again, we're not doing this show just for ourselves. We're not doing the show because Scott's not even a Bronco fan or anything. We're here because my content machine goes, and you guys are driving the show as well. So appreciate everyone. Go ahead,
and Nick, from a team building perspective, this could be a really fascinating team. Mm-hmm. I know that's not what you want to hear, Broncos country, but if it goes bad and they hit the nuke button, then you're going to have signings, draft picks, trades, maneuvers, all of those things that bring you hope for the future. The problem right now is you keep thinking you've hit bottom and it's time to start going up. And at worst, you're just sitting there wallowing around in it. That's what sucks. Mm-hmm. A rebuild where you hit the nuke button and start over fresh and bring in new player, bring in draft picks and young and just flat out start over, rip the Band-Aid off. That's kind of exciting. It's fun. It's a possibility. You got to go through the pain to do it, but you've gone through the pain. You're there. You know it.
Yeah. And I saw a question. How's Ejiro Evero's defense doing in Carolina? EPA per play, they are a bottom 10 team, but they've had so many issues on offense and quarterback injury and whatnot that not putting too much on them, small sample size, but they're ranked 24th in EPA per play. So not great, but hey, it's much better than the Broncos sitting there at 32. So we'll see how next week plays out, guys. I'll be live again tonight with Carl on Building the Broncos. Scott and I will see you guys again tomorrow morning, talking little Falcons. And until then, you guys continue to choose kindness and compassion. And as always, go Broncos.